The other thing I want to discuss is oil and gas. That's another, this commission certainly doesn't shy away from controversial topics, so here's another one. There's a couple things that I would like to hear a discussion from the commission, and I think we have Mike Springfield. There's Mike. We may need your expertise, sir, but a few of the commissioners have talked, not a few, just a couple, I guess, have talked about some potential amendments that I would like to hear the thoughts on from my fellow commissioners, and if Mike Springfield wants to comment, he can. I'm going to pass the ordinance down to you guys, and if you look on through the ordinance, there's some red in there. Pass it on to the clerk. Did you want a copy? And I just want to get some thoughts here when regarding Mr. Springfield. Can you come up and sit? 3.1.
Here, you can use mine.
I would just like the other commissioners and Mr. Springfield to look at the added language in 3.1 regarding excluding community districts and design overlay zones. And Mr. Chairman, if it's okay to just discuss this with the other commissioners.
Sure, we can discuss it, but before we get into a big, long discussion about it, I'd like to have Director Springfield just weigh in on it.
Right.
The appropriateness of this language.
Well, first of all, the appropriateness of this discussion, I don't know. I would actually ask the county attorney if she thinks we can even do something like this. But
I have concerns about us even doing this. This oil and gas ordinance was not on the agenda. It's on the agenda. It will be on the agenda for the 19th.
Right.
Any changes that you could not take a final action on anything. Any of these proposed changes could not be done until it's on the agenda on October 19th.
I wasn't looking for proposed changes. I was just looking for a discussion. But does that, in your legal opinion, still cross a line?
An in-depth discussion would still cross a line for Open Meetings Act.
if I could, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do, and I know you're just having discussion and comments, is now that we both have this, at least to allow the acting county attorney and I to look over some of these changes and be able to write you a report to it.
I'll accept that.
That'll be the best way to handle it, so that we don't get ourselves in any kind of issues in the Open Meetings Act.
I guess just for the record, I just reasoned through these, and I would at least like them. I would at least like them to be considered, and if appropriate, considered as an amendment when we look at the 19th. When we look at them on the 19th. But of course, we need input from the attorney.
And I can speak to that, because if you propose any changes, especially these amount of changes, you're talking about a substantive change to the ordinance.
Correct.
Which means you would have to start the process all over again.
Correct.
Well, what I'm looking at don't look all that substantive.
Any change beyond a comma or...
They would be, Mr. Chairman, and we would have to repost and publish. It would put you to the second meeting in November.
Yeah.
Correct. Any of the only things about that I can think that would not be substantive, because even a comma can be,
correct,
is if we've accidentally had some type of typo, or used the wrong verb, said right, is instead of are when it's plural, that type of thing. This amount of changes would be substantive, and it would need to be reposted.
Well, I guess the comment I would like to make is I would like to look at these and consider what they are, and then decide as to how I might vote on the 19th based on whether these are part of the discussion or not.
We'll get your report early next week, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Director Springfield. Did you have a question, Commissioner Eichwald?
Based on what I'm looking at is, could it be, could this portion of the amendments be placed on the agenda for the next meeting as just for discussion? Not for action, but for discussion. Just in case, we don't get into the same boat that we got here now, where it says it's in violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Well, the whole ordinance will be on the agenda for the 19th.
Correct.
So any amendments will be discussed as part of that discussion.
But I think I can help everybody with this discussion that we're having right now by telling you this. And I was going to tell you this anyway, because this is in the memorandum that I wrote to the board based on the meeting that Commissioner Eichwald and I attended, as well as Director Springfield and the county attorney attended. The Sandoval County zoning, comprehensive zoning ordinance, which is, I don't know how many pages it is, Mike.
A bunch. It's over 100.
Yeah, it's a bunch. But that's the comprehensive zoning ordinance that the county has. In addition to the oil and gas ordinance that's up for vote on the 19th. That document and the document that we're going to vote on the 19th are essentially living documents, which means that at any point down the road, future commissions would have the ability to change those documents, change those ordinances, and change the language that's in them based on circumstances. And I'll let Director Springfield comment further on it, but the reality is, in the 18 years that he's been here, there have been changes that have been made to the zoning ordinance because of different circumstances that arise, different conditions, whatever. You can speak to that.
Well, the zoning ordinance has grown over time. Of course, when we got here, it was a COG model ordinance that was performance zoning. It was like 35 pages. It's grown considerably over the years, and a lot of things that are in there are due to circumstances of issues that have arisen in the county, and of course the county commission has the right at any time to change any ordinance that you have on the books unless mandated by federal or state government. So yes, this can be changed at any time you want.
So I just glanced very quickly at this language that you guys have in this document, and I noticed that a couple of the things that are in there are items that we've discussed several times and have decided that that's not appropriate language in the oil and gas ordinance because it's either preempted by state law or it represents a taking, or so on and so forth. But I'm going to let Director Springfield weigh in on these proposed changes, and he can give you a report next week.
Right.
And we'll go from there. Okay.
Right.
Gentlemen.
Okay.
Do you have any comments, Commissioner Holden Rhodes?
Yes, sir. Could you say again? You said I'm confused as to recommendations that we can make now.
Can't make any. You just did, but because it's not on the agenda tonight, we cannot consider it or take any action. Yeah.
Will we discuss it next meeting?
We can discuss it next meeting, but in the meantime, you're going to get a report from Director Springfield as to whether the proposed changes can even be done. Okay? The appropriateness of the language that's proposed in there in terms of changes.
Now, are we only discussing these proposed changes or additional that might have come out in addition to these?
I'm not sure I follow you.
So the whole ordinance will be discussed on the 19th. That's actually what will be on the agenda, is to discuss the whole ordinance. If any commissioner has any changes they want to be made, they can be made on the 19th, because that will be part of the discussion. The issue is it will then have to be republished and posted. It cannot be voted on as the ordinance.
Now, understand, again, for clarity, on the 19th, we have to address those changes.
Yes.
Correct.
That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that all you have, comment-wise? Okay. Commissioner Hott?
I'm out of comments.
You're out of comments. Commissioner Eichwald?
I'm more than out of.
You're more than out. Okay, well, we do have one little piece of business that I would like to take care of as your chairman. And basically, I think the best thing for me to do is just read this memo that I gave you each a copy of today. So, yesterday, I mean, this is as soon as we could get it done, right? Yesterday, on October the 4th, 2017, Commissioner Eichwald, Director of Springfield, County Attorney Smallwood, and myself met with representatives of San Felipe Pueblo. Those representing the Pueblo included Lieutenant Governor Carl Valencia, Tribal Administrator Daryl Candelaria, Land Management Specialist Ricardo Ortiz, Tribal Administrator Bruce Garcia, Tribal Administrator Tom Teagarden, Water Resources Specialist Michael Sandoval, Director Panu Stout, and GIS GPS Coordinator Nevin Sanchez. At the request of the Governor and Lieutenant Governor, we came to meet with the above individuals, and there were a number of issues that were discussed. They are in order: the Southern Pueblo Conference meeting and Sandoval County's attendance, and I'll make remarks on each one of these as soon as I'm listing them, as soon as I'm done listing them. Number 2, encroachments on San Felipe lands by residential, commercial, and mining operations. Number 3, better communications between tribal and county leadership. Number 4, published Sandoval County's oil and gas ordinance. And number 5, a November 6, 2017 follow-up meeting. Regarding the Southern Pueblo Conference meeting in Sandoval County attendance, we were told that the previous chairman of Sandoval County hosted those meetings here at Sandoval County's campus, and we're considering doing the same. Regarding the encroachments on San Felipe lands by residential and commercial and mining operations, Director Springfield offered to provide information on this issue, establish a resolution, and get back to San Felipe as soon as he gets the information from them as to what these encroachments are. Regarding better communication between Pueblo and county leadership, both Commissioner Eichwald and I made a commitment to increase communication, as evidenced by our follow-up meeting already scheduled for November the 6th. Regarding the published Sandoval County oil and gas ordinance, the San Felipe folks brought up a couple of concerns, including federal tribal water quality standards. Based on staff's research, though, these standards are already being recognized in our ordinance under the Clean Water Act. They also brought up the concern in regards to air quality issues, and those are regulated by the EPA National Ambient Air Standards, which is also recognized in our ordinance. Tribal leaders also expressed concerns on drilling under their land, and staff advised that OCD regulates this type of action through the applicant and under what's known as the Surface Owners Protection Act, which is part of our ordinance. The tribal leaders also mentioned that there was no reference to what's known as NAGPRA, or the Native American Graves Protection Repatriation Act, and staff determined that this is already regulated through the federal government and therefore not needed in our ordinance. Finally, in regards to the current oil and gas ordinance, county officials asked the tribal leaders to respect our interest in what has been a 2-year process to enact this ordinance on October the 19th, and they agreed. Director Springfield further explained that Sandoval County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, as well as the Sandoval County Oil and Gas Ordinance, are living documents, just as I mentioned a few minutes ago, and so future commissions might edit any ordinance that the county currently has. The main point of this meeting that I want to make sure that the commission understands is the fact that we appealed to the tribal leaders' respect for the amount of work and the body of work that's been put into the oil and gas ordinance here at Sandoval County, and to respect the fact that we are ready to vote on this ordinance on October the 19th. and they agreed. Now, at the November the 6th meeting, when Commissioner Eichwald and I go back, we'll discuss all of that was discussed yesterday and maybe more going forward. But just so you know, when we went and met with them, they had concerns other than just the oil and gas ordinance that they wanted to discuss with us, and I think it was a very good meeting, and we'll have subsequent meetings with them. And I would also urge my fellow commissioners to consider attending the Southern Pueblo Conference whenever it is it's going to be scheduled, and we'll let you know about that as soon as we get that schedule nailed down with them. Any other?
I just have a comment that you triggered a thought here with regard to if the staff is going to look at something here, could they look under the Clean Water Act, could they look at the exemptions for the oil and gas industry from 1987 and 2005? And you can have this document if you want to take a look at I just want to understand how they apply.
Okay, maybe you could include that in your report, Director Springfield. Yeah. Any other comments, Commissioners? Commissioner Eichwald.
Just want to, Mr. Chairman, I just want to indicate also that I also had another meeting with the tribal members of San Felipe and the Sheriff's Department in reference to jurisdiction, and it was a very productive meeting. County Attorney has been informed about some of the issues that were brought up as far as jurisdiction, and basically it's all on State Road 313. So it might be encompass some other stuff, but productive meeting. Again, we're trying to reach out to, and they're reaching out to us also about the issues that concern them. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Eichwald. Any other comments, gentlemen? County Manager, do you have anything? No? Okay. If not, then this meeting's adjourned.